would have changed. Either we would have gotten divorced then, which to me was just completely out of the question. That was not even an option that I wanted. I don't think I would have been capable of it anyways with 3 little kids. Like, I have no idea how women do it. It was not good where I was at, but it like, I can't imagine. It wasn't so bad that I couldn't do that. I didn't think, well, and he, quite frankly, he had me pretty convinced that I couldn't live without him. Even though I was always the majority breadwinner. I was always the go-getter. I always made at least 1.5 to 2 times what he made. But for some reason, I was not fully convinced that I could do it on my own.
I believe you. And honestly, the women I've spoken to, a lot of single mom friends, and the reason I think this is relative is because if there was no kids around, that probably wouldn't have been such a powerful tool that person had with you. If it was just you, Yeah. But when kids are involved, the amount of people that literally don't think that they have an option, even if they make enough money, to do it without, to do it alone. They don't. Not to say that, oh, you just didn't do it because you were not strong enough. I'm sure I commend you for still sticking to the cause of having an intact family. Like, I also know that was something that you should also, like, I can also say the same to you. Like, I don't know how you did that, just in the name of keeping your family whole, which is a great gift you gave your kids.
Well, a big part of that was, with what was going on at the time, I had zero confidence that, like, if we were separated, I had no control over who he's going to bring into my kid's life. And the only way that I was going to be able to manage that was by staying married. Had he decided to leave me, I wouldn't have had a choice. But he wasn't going anywhere because, he was sitting pretty.
Yeah, of course.
He wasn't going to go anywhere.
Why would,
he was leading a comfortable life.
I could imagine, he wouldn't have.
For me, it was control. I had this vision of what I wanted life to look like, and that was more important to me than anything else. And I just had no confidence whatsoever that my kids would be around the right people.
And honestly, like, that's okay. Like, I was, one thing I want everyone to know, this podcast is not about leaving your ex at all. This is something that, single parents get together, single moms, and we're just single because we are, and each one has a journey and a story. And everything you've chosen to do in your life is just what you've made the decision to do is right for you. And I encourage everybody, always try and stay and make it work for your kids' sake if you have children. If you can, if it's not destructive and,
if it's not
dangerous,
detrimental. To them.
I mean,
we just we have to make the best decisions that we can make with the information that we have at the time that we need to make the decision.
Yeah,
and sometimes we look back and we're like, "Dang, that was not the right decision."
Right.
But sometimes and who knows? Like, I don't know. Maybe it would have been. Like I did. Honestly, I questioned staying. I would have these conversations with him where I'd say, you don't talk to me. Talk to me the way that you want a man to talk to your daughter. Like, treat me the way you want your daughters to be treated, because you're modeling right now what's acceptable for them. And then and I would say, for your son, model who you want him to be. And his response to that was always, keep my kids out of this.
Of course.
Whatever.
But it's interesting because I said the same thing. It's interesting how we completely disconnect the two. Even though you're so right, we know that is exact, like, especially after some serious self-evaluation. But I think narcissists are literally incapable of looking at themselves and looking in a mirror. So that is like a foreign, you may as well be speaking Swahili to him at that point. It's just not a concept they can, and they want to be the best dad so that they can always know they've been the best dad. And a lot of narcissists are really good dads in a lot of ways. Men, I'm talking about. But it's often for the really wrong reason.
Right. So they can show off their kids. Their kids do well, and that makes them look good.
Yeah, it's crazy. Not always, but that's often a really typical.
But I did really struggle with that because, I knew that, it'd be like, okay, so what would I tell my daughter to do in this situation?
Right.
I know exactly what I would have told her to do, and I wasn't willing or able or capable of doing it. And then I struggled with, I'm not modeling the type of woman that I would want her to be.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of, who knows what the right answer is.
I don't think there is one. And I think, in my situation in comparison, everyone has a line that cannot be crossed.
Right.
And I'm sure that if that line had been crossed, you would have took those kids out of there,
right.
whatever line that was. I'm like you. I had the cause of staying for the family very much in the front for us. I was raised in a intact home. I couldn't imagine being any other way. And so, for me, I had finally after the 10 years, the line was crossed, being arrested for, not to air my ex's dirty laundry, but once he was arrested with guns and bringing crackheads around to my kids, the line had finally been crossed. And that's after years of him being cheating on me. And,
I wasn't dealing with anything like that.
Of course.
Oh, dear Lord. I mean, I hear you've told me your story, and I'm just like, how are you even sane? I don't, it makes my experience just seem like a walk in the park.
No, I hear you. I mean, there's those, we talked about this in my last episode, there's those in your face issues that it's so easy to be like, oh, that's an easy one. Leave him. He's a drug addict. He's bringing drug addicts around. Your kids aren't safe, Easy black and white situation. Leave that guy. And then there's those not so easy, hidden behind closed doors, torturous, abusive type of behaviors that you're subjecting yourself to. That when I say abusive, I don't mean physical, but those emotional.
Sometimes it's abusive, physically abusive. But I would say I so many times that I said, I wish he would just hit me. If he would just hit me,
it'd be easier.
I know what to do with that.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But
when he doesn't talk to me for a week. And, he tells me what I think and what I feel, and that's
the crazy place that those narcissists will have you in, and you will be married to them for 20, 30 plus years because you just don't have it. And I was stuck in that for a while because my addict husband was addicted to painkillers. They were all prescribed by doctors. They were hidden with surgeries. So for many years it was, I'm an addict, but it's all very kosher. And I'm the crazy one for thinking he's addicted. It wasn't until he crossed over into the really obvious crazy place, it was an easy, okay, now I can leave kind of deal. So I know I've been sort of both sides where it's like the easy way out, meaning the black and white, okay, this is an easy, obvious, I can tell everyone I left because he's a crazy drug addict. Or I wanted to leave years before. There was lots of things and reasons why I could have, but I was trying to just be like, no, I can work this out for the kids. This is the gaslighting type abuse. It was not.
And admittedly, he was very, very controlling, controlling. And you know what? That felt like love.
You liked that.
It felt like love because, growing up in, in and out of foster care, on my own at such a young age, my mom, nobody really cared what I did when I was a kid. I mean, I went through a phase where I got very, very, I got very into drugs and I got very, very sick, and I almost died. And that kind of woke me up, and I realized that if I didn't stop doing what I was doing, that I was going to die. Yeah. And it was an epiphany for me. And I literally packed up my stuff and I moved away from where I lived, and I left all those friends, and I started a new life. And, his control felt like love.
Yeah.
Nobody loved me like that.
We were discussing that. I think I was talking to one of my family members about how kids need discipline as children, and they act out when you don't give them discipline. But when you do, and you're a very disciplinarian family, they actually feel safer and more content in the long run. And it's what we feel loved and safe. Love and safety connect, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you're left to not have that safety and you're just acting out, and then so I could totally relate to you. So then when you're an adult, what's being told, you need to do this, you have to do this. You're being controlled per se, which is not technically loving in an adult sense. But for you, I can totally understand how that felt good, safe. Yeah. And that equates to feeling loved, protected. Because narcissists love to use the word protective instead of controlling. Not jealous, I'm protective of you.
Oh, yeah. He used to tell me that I saw the world through rose-colored glasses and that I needed to be protected from myself.
Yep.
He said that on so many occasions.
So many.
But if not for the rose-colored glasses, because of the rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags.
Right, of course. And that's what I think they know, that like my narcissist used to say, I'm very protective of you. And, and I just thought, oh, that's so cute, you know. But what he meant to say was, I'm jealous.
Like,
and
you are my thing. You are my possession.
Right.
You are objectified.
Yeah.
And nobody can play with my toy. And you must do, if you don't behave the way that I expect you to behave, you're not worthy of my love and affection. And
it's such a sad place to be. And I'm sure there's so many people out there that like listen to this and realize, oh my gosh, it's so true. And it's so indicative of like how just our upbringing as a child, not to say I didn't have two loving parents, but just the brokenness in me from whatever it was, it was there, from whether it's from the lack of love my parents had for me, there was just something broken in me, so that I'm an easy target for those like that, and always trying to be loved by someone, and so I relate to that. That's very interesting.
So being the first year, and that's what we're talking about. Yeah. Probably the biggest thing that I struggle with is not feeling safe.
Right.
Like, it is scary.
Yes.
Yeah,
I know that.
It is scary. It was scary. And I think probably the very, very, very first reaction that I had when I found out that he was seeing this other woman, which was kind of the impetus for me finally just saying, it's over. Because we had separated, but we hadn't separated. We were doing kind of a strange dysfunctional dance for about a year. And then I
call that the beginning of the end.
It was the beginning of the end. For me, I was just in denial, and I wanted to go back. He wanted me to come back. He wanted me to come back because I was a horrible, terrible, awful, no good, very bad person who was ruining his life.
But it's a possession, and that's
and I
25 years,
and if I had to be punished for trying to be my own individual person, but I wanted to go back. I really did. I never really wanted to leave. When I filed for legal separation, I didn't file for divorce. I filed legal separation because realistically, I didn't want a divorce. I wanted him to wake up.
Yep. And same. That's why I did the same.
And so
hoping that would be the thing to let them know how serious you were about the change that was needed. And for me, it backfired.
It backfired. It just made him mad.
Yeah.
Like it just made him mad. And
that sucks.
And then, and then he ended up meeting somebody, and then he's honestly, he's used her for the last year and a half as a tool to up level the mean. And but you know what? I participated in that. I think
you entered the dance.
Yes. Now that I'm entering more of what I would consider the sane arena, I can look back and I can truly see, and I know my friends could all see it, and my friends were very supportive, but it was like an addiction, trying to break away. It was like physically impossible to do, and he didn't make it any easier. Because he wasn't letting go either. I mean, had he met her and just said, "Hey, look, like I met somebody, let's wrap this divorce thing up," I would have been like, "Well, what can I say?" And I would have had to deal with that. Or if he'd, even before that, said, "Hey, look, like we're doing, you moved out, but even though we're spending time together, we're kind of in this strange spot. We are where we're at, but since we're not really together, but we're not really, like, I'm going to be dating." Like if he was up front with that, then when he met this person, what could I have said? Right. The agreement was like, we're separated, we can both date, but no. Like he expected loyalty and faithfulness until we were fully divorced. And I didn't know that we were in the spot.
So let me ask you, just to clarify time-wise, this last year you're talking about how he met another girl, and really the beginning of the end was, so you've been single technically now about a year. So prior to that, was it like the year before that? So like 2019?
So we started doing this strange, we had issues, and I filed for legal separation in November of 17. Oh, okay. But I didn't move until, I didn't move out until March of 18. And then between March and 18, we lived separately, but we still spent most of our time together. We still we got shopping together, had dinners together.
So he moved out.
I moved out.
Oh, you moved out.
Yeah, I moved. He wasn't going to go anywhere.
Right.
Again, sweet deal.
Yeah, right.
He wasn't going anywhere. I moved out.
So you filed for legal separation and moved out. You were living separately. Trying to sort of see if
like
that
I
made
wanted,
things...
like, you know, like come to me. Like, meet
right,
me. Like,
right.
you know, I